Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt invisible? Not because you meant to fade away, but because somehow, over time, you just did. As we grow older, it's not always the wrinkles or gray hair that distance us from others. Often, it's the subtle habits we develop without noticing, habits that quietly push people away. Let me share the story of Mrs. Ellen, a 74-year-old retired nurse who once brought everyone together. Her home used to echo with laughter, and her phone rang daily. But now, her calls go unanswered, and the silence is deafening. She wonders what went wrong. She's not mean, she's not ill. She simply changed in ways she never realized. From constantly complaining about the past, to refusing help when it's offered, to unknowingly shutting down conversations with one-sided stories. These small shifts have built invisible walls around her. And the truth is, Ellen's story isn't rare. It might sound like someone you know. It might sound like you. That's why this video matters. Today, we're uncovering 12 hidden habits that make aging harder, lonelier, and more emotionally painful than it needs to be. These aren't things most people will tell you. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know how. So I'll say it for them. Because I've seen these habits take root in the lives of people I care about. And I've seen how powerful it can be when we choose to break free from them. One habit at a time. Especially number 7. It's the one that catches almost everyone off guard and can quietly ruin even the strongest relationships. So if you've ever felt like your world is shrinking, like you're no longer being heard or seen the way you used to, then stay with me. Hit the like button if this resonates with you. Subscribe for more insights like this. And when we get to the habit that stings the most, I want you to drop a comment. Share your story. Because aging doesn't mean fading, it means refining, reconnecting, reclaiming joy. And that starts right now, as we dive into the first habit that most seniors develop without even realizing it: becoming unintentionally negative. Becoming too negative and critical. Have you ever noticed how some conversations with older loved ones feel heavier than they should? It often begins innocently. Maybe a complaint about a sore knee, frustration over rising prices, or a nostalgic sigh about how things were better back then. But over time, these small comments pile up, turning into a habit of constant negativity. I once worked with a gentleman named Mr. Paul, a retired high school coach known for his booming voice and infectious energy. But now, at 72, he spends most of his time listing what's wrong with the world, his health, the government, how today's youth don't listen. His family used to visit weekly, but now they call less, stay shorter, and rarely linger. His grandson once said, "I love Grandpa, but I always leave his house feeling worse than when I got there." That's the quiet power of unchecked negativity. It doesn't just cloud the air. It pushes people away without us even realizing it. From a professional standpoint, I've seen this happen more often than most people think. Many seniors fall into this emotional spiral not because they're mean, but because aging brings discomfort, loneliness, and change, and expressing that pain becomes a default mode. But here's the truth. When negativity becomes the main language you speak, it robs your relationships of joy, and it reinforces the very isolation you're trying to avoid. So how do we change the script? It starts with intention. Begin conversations with something positive, anything, even a small compliment, a fond memory, or a genuine question. Limit how long you dwell on complaints, and practice replacing criticism with curiosity. If your grandchild mentions something new, don't brush it off. Instead, ask them to tell you more. A little interest goes a long way. I often tell my patients, people remember how you make them feel, not just what you say. Negativity may feel like honesty, but if it consistently drains others, it becomes something else entirely. So here's a powerful question to ask yourself. Do people feel lighter or heavier after talking to you? Coming up next, we'll uncover the second habit, one that slowly erodes your self-worth and begins not with your words, but with your reflection in the mirror. 2. Neglecting appearance and personal hygiene. Have you ever looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back at you? Not because of age or wrinkles, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped caring. It doesn't happen overnight. First, it's skipping a haircut. Then, wearing the same house clothes for days because they're comfortable. One day you find yourself avoiding the mirror altogether, quietly telling yourself, "Who do I need to impress anyway?" That's exactly what happened to Mrs. Linda, a 75-year-old woman who used to light up every room with her colorful blouses and signature perfume. But after retirement, and especially after her husband passed, those little routines faded. She told herself it didn't matter anymore. But it did. People noticed. Friends stopped inviting her out. Strangers no longer smiled at her like they used to. And worst of all, she started to feel invisible. As someone who has worked with seniors for over a decade, I've seen how this subtle form of self-neglect can slowly chip away at a person's identity. When we stop taking care of our appearance, we send a message to ourselves and the world that we've given up. But personal grooming isn't about vanity. It's about self-respect. It's about dignity. And it's one of the most powerful signals that we are still engaged with life. The good news is, it doesn't take much to turn things around. Start by choosing an outfit that makes you feel good, even if you're not going anywhere. Add a splash of color. Wear that necklace you love. Comb your hair. Moisturize your skin. These small rituals reconnect you with your sense of self, and others will feel it too. I've seen people's energy shift completely just by getting dressed with intention. Because when you feel confident in your skin, you carry yourself differently. You move with more purpose. You smile more. And the world reflects that back to you. Ask yourself, what's one small thing you can do today to feel a bit more like you again? Coming up next, we'll talk about a habit that hides behind tradition, but often turns into emotional isolation, stubbornness, and the quiet resistance to change. 3. Being stubborn and resisting change. Have you ever said, "That's just how I've always done it," and meant it as a badge of honor? For many seniors, that phrase becomes a quiet wall that slowly separates them from the world around them. At first, it feels like holding on to tradition, but eventually, it turns into resisting everything new. Take Mr. Raymond, a 78-year-old widower who cherished Sunday phone calls with his family. But as his kids and grandkids started using group chats and video calls, he refused to adapt. "If they want to talk, they can call me," he said. But the calls came less and less. He missed birthdays, photos, jokes, little moments that could have brought him closer, if only he'd been willing to meet them halfway. And he's not alone. After years of structure and routine, many older adults cling to what's familiar, not out of stubbornness, but out of fear. Fear of looking foolish, of losing control, of being left behind. But here's the truth I've learned working with seniors over the years. Resisting change doesn't protect you. It isolates you. In today's world, change isn't just constant. It's how connection happens. And refusing to adapt, even in small ways, often leads to deeper loneliness than we realize. So how can you shift without feeling like you're giving up your identity? Start small. Instead of saying, "I don't need that," try, "I'll give it a try." Let your grandkids show you how to send a text or video chat. Watch a show they love, even if it's not your thing. Learn one feature on your smartphone. These little steps aren't about technology. They're about keeping a seat at the table of your own life. And here's something powerful. Every time you try something new, you're not losing control, you're gaining confidence. You're showing the people around you that you're still growing, still curious, still you. Ask yourself, are you holding on to routine or holding yourself back? Up next, we'll explore a habit that clutters not just your home, but your peace of mind, and how letting go of just-in-case items can make room for joy again. 4. Hoarding and refusing to let go. Have you ever opened a drawer and found something you haven't used in 10 years, but couldn't bring yourself to throw it away? Maybe it was just in case, or maybe it held a memory. That drawer turns into a closet. The closet becomes a room. Before long, your once cozy home feels like a museum of your past, and not one you want to invite anyone into. I once met a woman named Grace, 76 years old, who hadn't hosted a visitor in over 5 years. Her home was filled wall-to-wall with old birthday cards, expired coupons, clothes that hadn't fit in decades, and magazines dating back to the 90s. "Everything here means something," she told me. But behind her smile, there was exhaustion. And beneath that clutter, there was grief, fear, and a longing for control in a life that had changed too quickly. You see, hoarding isn't about mess, it's about memory. It's about holding on to something tangible in a world that feels increasingly uncertain. But over time, those things stop offering comfort and start creating chaos. Clutter increases stress, limits mobility, and can even pose real safety risks, especially for older adults prone to falls. But beyond the physical danger, it sends a message to our brain. I'm stuck. The good news is we don't have to declutter everything at once. Start small, one drawer, one shelf, one bag at a time. Ask yourself, do I use this? Does it bring me joy, or is it just taking up space? If the answer is no, consider donating, recycling, or passing it on to someone who will appreciate it. Letting go of physical clutter often makes emotional space for new joy, new experiences, and even new people. One of the most healing moments I've seen with clients is when they open up their homes again, not just to fresh air, but to connection. And remember, your memories don't live in things. They live in you. So what are you holding on to that's holding you back? Coming up next, we'll dive into a habit that may seem minor, but can quietly damage every relationship you care about: losing patience too quickly. 5. Losing patience with others. Have you ever caught yourself snapping at someone for something small, then immediately regretted it? Maybe the cashier was too slow, or the delivery driver forgot something, or your grandchild didn't answer fast enough. At first, it feels justified, but the look in their eyes? That stays with you. I once witnessed a moment at a pharmacy that stuck with me. A gentleman in his late 70s, Mr. Howard, was frustrated that the young technician didn't know how to apply his insurance. His voice rose, his words sharp. The girl apologized, her hands trembling. Only then did Mr. Howard notice she had tears in her eyes. His frustration wasn't about her. It was about feeling left behind, out of control, exhausted from a body that doesn't move like it used to. And that's what makes this habit so dangerous. It masks deeper emotions. As we age, it's natural to become less tolerant of noise, confusion, or inefficiency. But when that irritation turns into quick outbursts, it doesn't just damage relationships, it poisons our peace of mind. Research has shown that chronic impatience raises stress levels, increases blood pressure, and shortens attention span. More importantly, it creates distance between us and the people we love. So how can we shift from reactivity to calm presence? Start with awareness. The next time irritation rises, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this really worth my energy? Sometimes, kindness is as simple as staying silent. Other times, it's saying, take your time instead of hurry up. You never know what someone else is going through. And when you choose patience, you model grace for your children, your grandchildren, and yourself. One small act of understanding can soften the hardest day for someone else, and often for you too. I always remind my clients, patience isn't weakness, it's wisdom in motion. So ask yourself honestly, are your reactions building connection or burning bridges? Coming up next, we'll uncover a habit that's even more subtle, but just as damaging: talking too much and forgetting how to truly listen. And trust me, this one might surprise you. 6. Talking too much, not listening. Have you ever finished a conversation and realized you did all the talking? It's easy to miss, especially when you have stories to tell, wisdom to share, and decades of experience behind your words. But here's the hard truth. Sometimes, the more we talk, the more others feel invisible. That's exactly what happened with Mrs. Evelyn, a retired teacher who adored her daughter. They used to speak every evening, but the calls became shorter, then less frequent. One day, Evelyn finally asked why. Her daughter hesitated and then said gently, "Mom, I love you, but I never get a word in. I don't feel heard." That moment hit her like a wave. Evelyn hadn't meant to dominate the conversation. She just thought sharing was her way of staying close. But what she didn't realize was that listening, true, intentional listening, is a deeper form of love. I've seen this countless times in my years working with older adults. We're eager to connect, but often fall into a pattern of monologuing, jumping in with advice, interrupting with our own stories, or steering the topic back to something we're more comfortable with. The result? Our loved ones retreat. Not because they don't care, but because they don't feel seen. Real conversation is a two-way street, and the best ones leave both people feeling understood. So how do we shift? Begin by creating space. After you speak, pause and ask, "What about you?" Let the other person talk without rushing to reply. Practice curiosity. Ask open-ended questions like, "What's something you've been excited about lately?" And most importantly, be fully present. No distractions, no rehearsing your next sentence while they speak. When you listen with your heart, people notice. They stay longer. They open up. They come back. And you'll be surprised by what you learn when you stop trying to lead the conversation and start following it. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you truly listened, without interrupting or planning what to say next? Coming up next is a habit that disguises itself as strength, but often leads to painful loneliness: refusing to accept help, even when you need it most. 7. Refusing to accept help. Have you ever struggled with something simple, lifting a grocery bag, opening a jar, reaching for something on a shelf, and still said, "No thanks, I've got it," even when help was right there? At first glance, it seems like strength. But over time, refusing help becomes a form of isolation, and sadly, most people don't realize it until it's already pushed others away. Let me tell you about Mr. Leonard, a proud 80-year-old veteran. He lived alone, fiercely independent. His neighbors adored him and often offered assistance, bringing meals, offering rides, or just helping with yard work. But Leonard declined every time, smiling politely, saying, "I don't want to be a burden." Eventually, they stopped offering. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't want to disrespect his pride. The result? Leonard began to feel invisible, even though love was all around him. In my experience working with older adults, this habit is heartbreaking because it's rooted in dignity, but ends in disconnection. Here's the truth. Accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It says, "I trust you. I value connection." And here's something most people forget. Allowing someone to help you gives them a gift too, the gift of feeling useful, appreciated, and connected. So how do we break this silent habit? First, reframe the mindset. Instead of thinking, "I don't want to be a burden," try, "We all need each other sometimes." The next time someone offers help, say, "Thank you." That would mean a lot. You'll be amazed how a simple yes opens the door to closeness. And if you do need support, don't wait. Ask, "Could you give me a hand with this?" Or, "Would you mind helping me carry this?" These small moments create bridges that can carry us through the hardest seasons. Ask yourself, are you holding on to independence or pushing away connection? Coming up next, we'll look at a habit many seniors develop without realizing it, being so frugal that they stop enjoying life. And the cost? It's much greater than money. 8. Being too frugal to enjoy life. Have you ever found yourself hesitating to spend money on something joyful, like a dinner with friends, a short weekend getaway, or even a new pair of shoes, because you thought, "What if I need this money later?" For many seniors, this mindset starts out as responsible budgeting, but slowly turns into emotional self-deprivation. Take Miss Clara, for example, a 79-year-old widow who spent her entire life working hard, saving diligently, and being careful with every penny. She had enough in the bank to live comfortably, yet she still clipped coupons, skipped invitations, and turned down small indulgences. When her best friend invited her on a trip to the mountains, her first instinct wasn't excitement, it was anxiety. "Can I really justify the expense?" she thought. But what Clara didn't realize was that in trying to protect her future, she was missing her present. And this isn't rare. In my work with older adults, I've seen how oversaving can shrink your world, turning joy into guilt and opportunities into regrets. Yes, it's smart to be cautious, but not at the cost of living fully. You worked hard for this chapter of life. It's meant to be enjoyed. So how do you shift from fear to fulfillment? Start by giving yourself permission. Set aside a joy fund, even if it's modest. Spend on experiences, not just things, because those are what create lasting memories. Try something you've postponed for years. Say yes to that lunch, that show, that class, that adventure. And don't forget, your happiness is also a gift to others. When your loved ones see you smiling, laughing, and embracing life, it inspires them to do the same. Ask yourself, are you truly protecting your future or postponing your joy? Coming up next, we'll explore a habit that damages relationships in a quieter but deeper way, looking down on younger generations. And sometimes, all it takes is one dismissive sentence to make a grandchild stop sharing their world with you. 9. Talking down to younger generations. Have you ever said, "Back in my day," only to be met with silence, a forced smile, or a quick change of subject? At first, it might feel like sharing wisdom or reminiscing about simpler times. But for younger generations, those words can feel like judgment, like a quiet dismissal of the world they live in now. I remember a conversation between 80-year-old Mr. Franklin and his grandson, who had just excitedly shared his latest artwork created on an iPad. Mr. Franklin chuckled and said, "When I was your age, we didn't need screens. We used our imagination." The grandson's face dimmed. He didn't argue. He just quietly put the iPad away. That's the power of one sentence. It can close a door that took years to build. In my years of working with seniors, I've seen this happen far too often. What begins as nostalgia becomes comparison. What's meant as wisdom becomes criticism. And slowly, children and grandchildren stop sharing. not because they don't love you, but because they don't feel understood. Here's the truth. Every generation has its own struggles, its own culture, and its own version of hard. Just because it looks different doesn't mean it's less valuable. If you want to build bridges instead of walls, start with curiosity. When someone shares something new, whether it's a song, a game, or even a belief, try asking, "What do you like about that?" Or, "Can you show me how that works?" You don't have to agree with everything, but showing interest keeps the conversation alive. And trust me, your openness will be remembered far longer than any lesson you try to teach. I always tell my clients, connection doesn't require you to understand everything, just to care enough to listen. Ask yourself, are your words opening hearts or closing them? Coming up next, we'll explore something more internal, but just as impactful, holding on to grudges and regrets. And if you've ever found yourself replaying old pain in your mind, this next part might be the emotional release you didn't know you needed. 10. Holding on to grudges and regrets. Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, replaying something that happened years, even decades ago? A painful argument, a betrayal, words you wish you had said, or never said at all. You're not alone. Many older adults carry emotional scars that never fully healed, and instead of fading, they fester, quietly shaping how we view ourselves and others. I remember speaking with a woman named Ruth, 81 years old, who hadn't spoken to her sister in over 30 years. No one in the family even remembered why they stopped talking, but Ruth did. Every holiday, every birthday, the silence echoed louder. She'd say, "It's too late now," but the sadness in her voice said otherwise. Holding on to grudges doesn't just affect the person you're angry at. It changes you. It hardens your heart. It steals joy from the present moment. And worst of all, it creates emotional distance from the very people who could help you heal. Regret does the same. It plays like a broken record. I should have called him back. I never made peace with her. I wasted too much time. But here's the truth I always share with my clients. You can't rewrite the past, but you can stop letting it write your future. Healing begins with acknowledgement. Write that person a letter, even if you never send it. Say the apology out loud, even if they'll never hear it. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not them. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the weight. Because as long as you carry resentment, your hands are too full to hold peace. Ask yourself, what's one burden you're still carrying that no longer serves you? And more importantly, what would your life feel like if you finally let it go? Coming up next, we'll talk about a habit that's often brushed off as just getting older, but can lead to serious consequences. Ignoring warning signs in your health. And sometimes, what you overlook today becomes the emergency you can't avoid tomorrow. 11. Ignoring health issues until it's too late. Have you ever told yourself, it's nothing, just part of getting old, while ignoring a nagging pain, a dizzy spell, or unusual fatigue? At first, it might feel like toughness, brushing off discomfort with pride. But over time, ignoring small warning signs can lead to big consequences, ones that can steal not just your health, but your independence. I'll never forget a client named Joe, 76 years old, who started feeling lightheaded every time he stood up. He laughed it off, blamed it on old age, and refused to see a doctor. One morning, he passed out in the kitchen, fell hard, and broke his hip. In the hospital, the doctor shook his head and said gently, "This could have been prevented." Joe's story is far too common. As we get older, we normalize discomfort. We minimize pain. But what we call aging can sometimes be something far more serious. High blood pressure, dehydration, early signs of stroke, or heart issues. Silence doesn't protect us. It delays the care we need. I always tell my patients, your body is speaking to you. Are you listening? Prevention isn't just about living longer, it's about living better. That means scheduling regular checkups, paying attention to small changes, and never ignoring symptoms like chest tightness, sudden confusion, vision problems, or unexplained weight loss. If something feels off, it's worth getting checked. You deserve answers, and early action saves lives. So how do we shift from neglect to awareness? Start by writing down symptoms as they happen, no matter how small. Share them with your doctor, not just with friends. And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. You've spent a lifetime caring for others. Now is the time to care for you. Ask yourself, are you brushing off signs that deserve attention? What might you gain if you face them head on? Coming up next, we'll explore one of the most overlooked habits of all, something that quietly disappears with age but has the power to transform your physical, mental, and emotional well-being: joy. Yes, we're going to talk about laughter, and why remembering how to enjoy life again may be the most healing choice of all. 12. Forgetting how to laugh and enjoy life. When was the last time you truly laughed? Not a polite chuckle, but a deep, soul-shaking laugh that made your eyes water and your heart feel lighter. For many older adults, that kind of joy quietly slips away, not with a bang, but with a slow fade into routine. I once sat with a woman named Helen, 83 years old, flipping through photo albums. Picture after picture showed her dancing, smiling, surrounded by family. "I don't know where that version of me went," she whispered. "Somewhere between funerals, medications, and the nightly news. I just forgot how to enjoy life." Her words hit hard. Because joy isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. And yet, it's often one of the first things we abandon as we age. Responsibilities grow, losses accumulate, and routines become rigid. Over time, we stop watching funny movies, stop calling the friends who make us laugh, stop singing in the kitchen, or playing games that once brought us so much life. But here's what decades of research and personal experience have taught me. Laughter heals. It lowers stress hormones, boosts immunity, improves circulation, and even helps with memory. And just as important, it reconnects us to others. Joy is contagious. When you smile, people lean in. When you laugh, people stay longer. The beautiful part? It's never too late to bring it back. So how do you start? Turn off the news for one night and put on a comedy you loved from your younger years. Call someone who makes you laugh. Join a local music or hobby group, even if you're nervous. Rediscover the small rituals that once brought you delight: gardening, painting, dancing, storytelling. You don't need permission to be happy again. You only need to remember that you deserve it. Ask yourself, have I replaced joy with routine? What's one thing I could do today to feel more alive? Because the final years of life are not meant to be gray. They're meant to be golden. And the more laughter you allow back in, the more vibrant everything becomes. If you've come this far in the video, I want to thank you for taking this journey with me, and I hope these reflections inspire a new chapter of connection, clarity, and joy. Let's talk about it in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more real conversations that matter. Aging doesn't have to mean fading into the background. It doesn't mean you become less important, less seen, or less loved. But the truth is, how we age is shaped by the small habits we carry with us every day. Maybe you saw yourself in some of the stories we shared today. Maybe one of the habits hit a little too close to home. That's okay, because recognizing the patterns is the first step toward reclaiming your joy, your confidence, and your connection with the people who matter most. You are not defined by the aches in your knees, the gray in your hair, or the things you wish you had done differently. You are still here. You are still capable of growth, laughter, learning, and love. Every moment, every single day, is a new opportunity to soften your heart, open your mind, and choose differently. And it doesn't take a dramatic change. Sometimes, the shift begins with one smile, one conversation where you choose to listen instead of lead, one yes when help is offered, or one joyful decision to spend your time, money, or energy on something that feeds your soul. I've worked with countless seniors who believed it was too late for change. But over and over again, I've seen what happens when someone chooses to show up differently. The spark returns. Relationships heal. Life opens up again. You are not alone in this journey. And the best part? You get to rewrite what aging looks and feels like from the inside out. If something in this video touched you, if a story reminded you of someone you love or of yourself, please let us know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. What habit do you want to work on first? What part brought you clarity or comfort? And if you found value in this video, please take a second to like it, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future content that speaks to your heart and your stage of life. This isn't just a video. It's a reminder. You still matter, you still belong, and the best parts of life may still be waiting for you, just one small change away.